Hello, everybody. This is Aaron Mead. I'm lead design for the Remix project, and I just wanted to walk you guys through some of the new things that we're going to see as we unveil the toys that Power Rangers brings to us. Power Rangers is going to be introducing a mechanic called Vehicle. Vehicle is a trait that we're going to see on some characters. These characters are also going to have some pretty interesting um, design philosophies for the card. We've got two costs on the left, and the rest of it is pretty much what we're used to seeing. You know, attack on the left, defense on the right, flight range, all that stuff is pretty normal. The top left, the far left number is just reflecting our recruit cost. Um, as usual, the recruit of a vehicle is going to be indicative of how much stun damage it takes. It's also the only number we refer to if anything ever checks for a cost. So even though we see a crew cost of 2 on the Sabertooth Tiger, it's not. No card looking for a cost is gonna be checking anything that's not the recruit cost, unless otherwise specifically specifying crew cost. Um, the Sabertooth Tiger's crew cost is going to come into play where we have its specified crew already in play and non-stunned. So in this case, we have a Yellow Ranger in play. Yellow Ranger is a 2 cost 3/3, and Sabertooth Tiger is a 4 cost 6/7. Now I can do two things. One, I can spend my 4 resources and just recruit Sabertooth Tiger like I would any other character. However, the benefit of having the correct crew is I can instead pay a 2 resource discount to, instead of having 2 characters in play, overlay the first character. So I can recruit for 4, or I can use the crew cost of 2, pay 2 resources, and overlay my Sabertooth Tiger that way. Doing it this way obviously opens me up to other things. One, I have resources left over, so I could play this Bulk and Skull that I've just been wanting to dominate people with, or whatever the case is. Once I have the Sabertooth Tiger in play crewed, a couple things are going to happen. So first off, you're going to gain your crew effect. So in this case, the crew Yellow Ranger unlocks at the start of the combat phase. Target vehicle you control gets +2 attack this turn. So instead of a 6/7 start of combat, we're going to immediately trigger and be an 8/7, which is fantastic to see. There is no minimum threshold. As you can see, there's no effect that says can't be played before. So if you play your 2-drop Yellow Ranger on 2, you can have this guy out on 3, which is really interesting when you're looking at tempo. You're choosing to go down on your board presence to go up on the card value. Power Rangers are really good at just putting all their eggs in one honkin' basket. But to back things up, crewed vehicles get a couple things. First off, you get your crew effect. Second off, you get the printed effect text of your crew. So you're also gaining the Yellow Ranger effect text. Thirdly, a crewed vehicle is going to gain the name and uniqueness to characters sharing that name. So Sabertooth Tiger will be unique to Sabertooth Tiger characters, and Sabertooth Tiger will be unique to Yellow Ranger characters, which is basically the reverse of how we skirted uniqueness in old versus system. This is just obviously to prevent some exploitation. We're not trying to get a wave of Sabertooth Tigers coming into play. We're trying to have the game mechanics demonstrate what the characters actually do in the show, in the comics, what have you. So making this an integral rule feels like a cleaner way to do it, considering the sheer benefit of having a 4 cost character in play on 3. Beyond that, you may have effects that are asking you to disembark a crewed character. So, not just introducing vehicles, we're also introducing a kind of pseudo terminology that's going to come with it. So, with vehicles, you're going to have crew, you're going to be crewing characters, you're also going to be disembarking crewed characters. So, frontline warfare, for example, I can discard a card and disembark target non-stun crewed vehicle I control. Disembarking is moving a crewed character from under a specified vehicle into play exhausted. Now, this tells us a few things. One, it tells us this character, Yellow Ranger, is not actually in play. It's just a placeholder underneath the saber-toothed tiger that's in play. But this allows us to put it back into play. Second, this is kind of a reactive measure that you could do as a player if you're about to do a trade. Maybe it's an unintended trade. Saber-tooth Tiger is going to get stunned for whatever reason. You can do a little bit of a last-ditch hurrah and abandon ship for your Yellow Ranger before committing to the stun. Keeping some kind of board presence. Maybe you just need to absorb that extra damage that you otherwise would be taking. Maybe you're paranoid about a finishing move that's going to just clear your board and get rid of everything. Regardless of the reasoning, it's a fair way that you can kind of keep your options open. Secondly, there's two-pronged attack, and that's disembarking, but doing it with a little bit more style. So in this case, we've got the Yellow Ranger underneath. We declare an attack. We've got Saber-Tooth Tiger coming in. For whatever reason, we either want to do more damage or we need just a little more attack power. So playing this card is going to allow us to disembark, but then take that disembarked character and make it an active team attacker on our existing attack. So this way, we can kind of flex a little extra oomph where maybe we weren't expecting to see some difficulty. Also super fun to use. Let's say we start the turn with Saber-Tooth Tiger in play and Yellow Ranger in play, but they're not crewed to each other. They're just in play. Anytime during your recruit step, assuming the chain is empty, as usual with all things versus, you can just declare crewing. Now, it's also worth mentioning that anytime you declare crewing, whether you're crewing from your hand as a cost or just declaring it in play, there's a moment where your opponent's going to have priority to add effects to the chain. If some reason you have a scenario where you are paying 2, you want to crew to the Yellow Ranger, and an opponent plays an effect that stuns it, or even KOs it, or otherwise removes it from play, regardless of what happened, as long as when you declared the recruit you had the non-stun character, we're going to resolve it entering play. It's just going to come into play uncrewed. So this way, you're not going to have control decks denying total resource turns to a player. You're still going to get your guy in play. You're still going to have met the conditions whether or not you're able to meet your crew cost requirement, your crew effect requirement, or get any of the other benefits. These are things that can be denied, certainly. Next, let's say I have a crew effect that's a little more ambiguous. I mean, Saber-Tooth Tiger only is looking for Yellow Ranger, so I've got a Turtle Megazord over here. Turtle Megazord, let's get a resource down here. Turtle Megazord, as you can see, has a much more ambiguous cost. Any character sharing a printed affiliation with Turtle Megazord. And while you have that, whenever it becomes stunned, you can just disembark its crew, which is kind of handy to have. Just as a, I don't know, little bonus, I'll show off a combo that I really like. Bulk and Skull, boys. Bulk and Skull, getting it done. If I have a Bulk and Skull in play, Bulk and Skull is a good support piece. The Power Rangers are going to have a lot of discard featured on the team. Bulk and Skull is a way to mitigate that, but not give you infinite discard options like Mr. Mix did back in the day. you're gonna get a Vulcan Skull. If you ditch it, you can remove it from the game, get another Vulcan Skull, so on and so on. But there's only 4 in the deck. However, every Vulcan Skull that you have removed from the game, you get +3 attack. Now remember, crewed vehicles gain the effect of the character. So putting a Turtle Megazord crewed on Vulcan Skull is going to gain his effect. And then when we check our remove from game area, we'll see +3 attack on a Turtle Megazord, giving me 14 attack on what is a functional 5-drop, which is pretty rad. Now, you can also use this to flex a little bit on your TMNT list and see where that takes you. Speaking of TMNT, it is really worth a very brief mention that crew costs are unaffected by press. So press chaining will not discount crew. You're going to be paying 5 resources in total as an alternative cost to put this card into play. It is not a recruit cost. Turtle Megazord's recruit cost would be discounted from press. That's an interesting distinction that's worth making. So we'll make it. One other thing. Let's say I want to get... Oh, wrong card. Let's say I want to get the big boss monster in play. Our boss monster works a little bit different than how we've indicated some of these. Oh, I remember. I put it face down in the resource row, didn't I? Haha, Dino Megazord. Alright, so Dino Megazord, its crew is any number of vehicles in their crew with cost 5 or less. So, with this boss monster, let's get this Turtle Megazord out of the way. I've got a Pink Ranger. It's got a Pterodactyl Zord on it. I've got Yellow Ranger with a Saber-Tooth Tiger on it. We're on turn 7. Hypothetically, I'm going to crew this guy. So, all of these will say go underneath it. You can choose any number. You don't have to choose all. But for this one, we'll choose all of them. So all of it goes underneath it, including crew. It gets +1/+1 for each card underneath it. So we have a 19/19 7-drop, which is fantastic. And as all the crew rules would indicate, we have all the effects of the cards underneath. So I have the ability to swing on target characters who are visible and protected. I have Saber-Tooth Tiger for +2 attack. I have Pterodactyl if I need to blow up equipment. And I have Pink Ranger for a card draw. All on what is a base 19/19. So, I mean, this is a fantastical way to try to close out a game. Its secondary effect, this is not a crew effect, mind you, so technically it would be active if you had another way to put things underneath it, but it wasn't crew. No, it would still have to be crew. So you can get multiple swings and, swing at 21 and then re-ready. We would probably take a second swing at, this would be 18. And just, pray that your opponent's not throwing Dr. Doom at you or any of the other control scenarios. And that's a perfectly wonderful game-ending turn 7 Dino Megazord Live in the Dream. And yes, it is specifically kind of ambiguously worded. If you somehow manage to get all the Rangers on all their Zords crewed, yeah, you live that dream. You take pictures. You send it to me. But that's going to be a really hard thing to do. But anyway, I hope this illuminates some of the interactions that you're going to be seeing with the Power Rangers release. If you have any questions about, how crew works, or if you have any specific interactions that you'd like to address, hit us up, and I'd love to help clarify anything that you have questions about. But in general, crewing vehicles and taking advantage of the disembark mechanic, cards like Press the Attack are going to be just straight fire in this list, and you're going to have some pretty interesting interactions that hopefully are going to be really fun without being too tilting for most opponents and most other decks. All of our testing has come out with the Power Rangers in a really interesting, balanced place. They're not winning everything forever. They're not losing everything forever. And we really think you guys are going to have a lot of fun. We're very excited to see what the community comes up with. And as usual, we will keep our head to the tracks and be listening for any unforeseen interactions and clarifying that as smoothly and as quickly as we can. I've been rambling a little bit, so I'm just going to leave it at that. We hope you guys love it and enjoy, guys. Take care.